Let me share with you my final thoughts from Mikey Gomez interview. It was interesting to hear Mikey sharing about a few topics that we have talked in previous podcast episodes, like his routine driven the same way Tim Crater shared on episode 3 with the morning rituals of successful entrepreneurs, or about personal responsibility, like Flavio Almeida shared on episode 4, and last but not least, the importance of being obsessed, that healthy obsession with your goal, like the Hall of Famer Bernardo Faria shared on episode 6 called Obsessed for Success. I'm not sure what your takeaway was, but mine was how to turn a negative situation into a positive situation, like the title of the podcast. How many times in your life were you able to turn a negative situation into a positive situation? If you stop to think about it and you look inside and reflect, most likely you did in different moments of your life. Mikey mentioned during his interview how he struggled with his asthma attacks. Countless sleepless nights, wondered, am I going to make it? It feels like I'm dying. Due to his asthma, he developed claustrophobia. However, jiu-jitsu training helped him to deal with this phobia. Since he was a teenager training with grown men, very often he would be smashed or put into tough positions, as you already know that happened in jiu-jitsu. And at the beginning, he would panic in these compromised positions. Then eventually he started to think, man, if I can survive my asthma attacks, I can survive here. And eventually he'll get tired and I'll find my way out. And he kept doing it and his confidence grew and he was able to transfer this thought process in different areas of his life. And he was able to turn the negative situation of dealing with the asthma and his phobia into a positive situation. And jiu-jitsu was the main tool that helped him to overcome that fear. And this is just one example of millions of stories of people turning negative situation into a positive one. It could have been a tournament that you lost, or a job you got fired, a relationship that ended, or a health-related issue. Regardless of the severity of the situation or how long it took you to overcome this challenge, there are 3 crucial steps to shift your mindset completely. And I'm going to break down for you how you can start utilizing these 3 steps right away in your life. The first step is acceptance. Easier said than done, but when you accept that what happened to you was a fact, and this fact or event cannot be changed, only a response to the fact can be changed, you're taking the first step of acceptance. I'm going to share with you a quick minor example. On April 13th, 2018, I was training my academy, GD Jiu-Jitsu, in Tempe, Arizona for the Abu Dhabi World Pro Championship, and it was taking place in the UAE on April 27th, exactly 2 weeks away from the tournament. And we're doing single leg live training. For those who are not familiar with this, basically you defend a single leg attack and try to break away while your partner attempts to finish the takedown for about a minute. And then when time's up, switch positions and go again, and you can make as many rounds as you want. But during my last round, I got taken down, bounced back up, and my partner shot a double leg with me. I was kind of sideways, so as soon as it took me down, I ended up hurting my foot as I was going down, and I turned my body like, and ended up posting my right arm, and I dislocated bad, man. This was the 3rd time, by the way, that I have dislocated my arm. At least this one's the first time in my right arm. But if you have injured yourself in jiu-jitsu or any other sport, you know how much it sucks, man. I was sad, disappointed at the hospital. But as soon as I left, I thought, you know what? This is the fact. I got injured. And the fact cannot be changed. Only my response to the fact can be changed. I won't be able to compete. I won't be able to train for a long time. What should I do with my extra time? That when the second step came in, which is taking responsibility for change. In this case, taking responsibility for changing this negative situation to a positive situation, which I did. I thought, you know what? I've been thinking about starting a podcast for a long time, and this is the perfect time to do it. So I signed up for a podcast course, bust my butt, and in 30 days, I had the very first episode of the BJJ Mental Coach podcast with the Show You Roll CEO, Vince Kirugua. Now, let me ask you this. Did you turn any negative situation to a positive situation this year? I hope you did. But if some reason you haven't, I hope these final thoughts can inspire you to accept that the fact cannot be changed, and only you can make this shift. And it's not what happens to you. It's what you do about it. This is just a quick example of how you can shift your mindset in minor incidents like that, or you can apply in major ones, which is much more challenging and require a higher level of emotional resilience. But before I share with you the third step, I would like you to imagine a rough and tragic scenario. Imagine in your mid-20s, you're healthy, things are going well, and then you have a near-death experience. Suddenly, you suffer a tragic motorcycle accident that caused an explosion and burned 65% of your body. You accept the fact, it would take full responsibility for changing, and in a few years later, you suffer another devastating accident and you injure your spinal cord, leaving you paralyzed from the waist down. Would you have the emotional resilience to accept the fact, to take responsibility, to change your mindset again? And you might ask, Gustavo, is there anyone that would have the emotional resilience to overcome that? And the answer is yes, and his name is W. Mitchell. As a young man, Mitchell served as a U.S. Marine, and at the time of his first injury, Mitchell was a gripman on a cable route in San Francisco. Also, he had just completed his first solo aircraft flight, and he was burned over 65% of his body on July 19th, 1971, when a laundry truck turned in front of his motorcycle he was riding in San Francisco. His face and hands were like done. His fingers are like completely burned, and he lost most of each of his 10 fingers. By the way, in 1971, if you were burned over 70% of your body, you're definitely dead. He later on won $500,000 settlement in a lawsuit against Honda because the gas cap on his bike was deemed faulty for having fallen off during the accident and caused the explosion. On November 11th, 1975, he crashed on takeoff in a small aircraft he was piloting due to ice on the wings. And as soon as he crashed, his first thought was, oh my God, this is going to explode. And he's just thinking about explosion and just screaming to everyone, get out of the plane. And he removed his seatbelt and then tried to get out, and he couldn't get up. He injured his spinal cord, but his other passengers escaped injury-free. But the NTSB, which is the National Transportation Safety Board investigation, indicated that the accident was due to his failure to detect the thin layer of ice on the wings during his pre-flight inspection. What would you do? Would you have the strength to accept the fact and take responsibility on changing and turning the negative situation to a positive situation again? Honestly, I really don't know if I would be able to do it, but he did. In 1977, he was elected mayor of a city in Colorado, eventually became a radio host and a motivational speaker who was inducted in the Hall of Fame of Public Speaking. As a matter of fact, that's how I heard about him, and I had the honor to meet him 3 years ago. I was at the NSA, the National Speakers Association convention in Phoenix, Arizona, assisting my mentor, Joe Weldon, who is 76 years old in 2018, and he's also in the Hall of Fame of Public Speaking. During interviews, he was holding only with Hall of Fame speakers, and I had the privilege to be in the same room with my mentor, the cameraman, and him. And man, he blew me away. And as I share this with you, I literally have goosebumps and get me a little emotional, because that's when I learned about the third step to shifting from the negative to a positive, which is be grateful for your life. We talked for a while after the interview, and he told me, yeah, send me your email. I'm going to send a copy of my book. It's not what happens to you. It's what you do about it. Taking responsibility for change. To have an idea how amazing and inspired this guy is, the foreword of the book is written by the motivational speaker Tony Robbins. If you're not familiar with him, the nation's top life and business strategist. And he said, W. Mitchell has refused to be overcome by 2 life-threatening and life-changing accidents, which, if given the power, could have ruled his life to its end. Instead, he decided to make the tragedies that befell him a starting point. When he says, it's not what happens to you in life, it's what you do about it, you can be sure he is a living, breathing example of the message to us. He shared with me that an attitude of gratitude allows us to move forward positively in any situation. And gratitude shifts our focus from things we lack to what we already have. And in his book, he mentioned, before I was paralyzed, there were 10,000 things I could do. Now there are 9,000. I can either dwell on the 1,000 I've lost or focus on the 9,000 I have left. Now Mitchell is 73. He lives in Santa Barbara, California, and maintains a second home in Hawaii. Let me ask you this. What are you focusing on? Are you focused on what you've lost or what you have left? And how many things can you be thankful today? If you're going through a rough time in your life right now, I totally get it, man. But do the best you can with the tools and knowledge you have right now to accept the fact, to take responsibility for changing, and to be grateful so you can focus on what you have, not what you don't have.
We're glad you were able to join us for this episode of the BJJ Mental Coach Podcast, but the lesson doesn't end here. Watch the videos and download the audio of the 10 mental mistakes BJJ competitors make and how to avoid them for free when you subscribe to the BJJMentalCoach.com. Don't miss the chance to find out what might be holding you back from being your best self on and off the mat. That's the BJJMentalCoach.com.